Let's do the DeVos, and then I want to do the Diamond Silk. I'm sorry, I know that's people are like, why? But I want to. Here is Betsy DeVos just reminding everybody how horrific Michael Bloomberg is. He has championed the charter movement, and here it is.
A great job for the families that are choosing them, and there are a million families on the wait list to go to charter
just
schools.
Talking over someone isn't an answer, just so you know. And yes or no often is when it's asked in a yes or no format. We also know that on the same group gave such incomplete information over 3 years, didn't report accurate information, reported no information on performance data. Would you give your staff a paycheck if they didn't perform 84% of their tasks? Yes or no?
Of course not. But
Thank you for
everything you're
yes
citing,
no.
you're citing is debunked ridiculous. So I don't accept the premise of your question.
Well, it's actually not. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's odd when people think your family runs a charter, correct? That's a yes or no.
No.
Your husband doesn't have a charter program?
He founded a charter school.
He founded a charter. So when people think that you may have a conflict of interest because of that,
Absolutely not.
I'll let you not do a yes or no. You can respond however on that.
I will respond in that my husband founded a charter school, which is meeting needs of students all over West Michigan, and he is on the board, but he does not run the school. It is organized as a not-for-profit charter school, and it is a public school serving all comers.
Well, Madam Secretary, I think just the fact that you couldn't answer yes or no when you look at this terrible rating of charter schools, this is why people have a worry that there could be a conflict or something else.
You're
because
wrong
if
about
they're not performing
schools.
Academically, yeah, but if 40% are closing down that you're giving grants to,
that is not true. That has been a totally debunked report. It was nothing but propaganda by an individual who has an in for charter schools.
So what percent of charter schools are failing? Do you have an idea? A number?
I don't have a state.
You're the Secretary of Education and you don't have this? You know this report's wrong,
Charter schools are chartered by states. Yep, they are not chartered by the federal government.
You know that number's not right, but you don't have a correct number. Is that what you're telling me?
What I know is parents and families are choosing to send their children to charter schools.
Yeah,
you can just say the most horrible stuff, but as long as you throw parents and families in there, people are just like, all right, I'll accept it.
My husband does not fix bread for our prices. He works for a company that founded a company that fixes bread prices. I mean, like, the choice argument, that was so funny. Like, families are choosing to send their kids to failing charter schools.
Yeah, parents and families can choose.
They're making the rational choice to send your kids.
Well, because if your kids learn to read, then they become
communists.
And people, which is such a misconception because obviously people become radicalized through podcasts.
First you learn,
of course.
Yeah.
First you learn to read, then you learn to read Chinese, then you learn to be a communist. And that's the flow chart.
I mean, the fact is that there are instances, narrow ones, very narrow ones, where charter schools are better, but no better than the law of averages.
Yeah.
And if you were to pour that type of resources into any given public school, then you would see that same type of, at the very least, that rate, if not better. And the fact is that everyone knows this is a backdoor way of trying to privatize schools. And it is, I interviewed recently a supporter of charters who embedded at the Success Academy for a couple of years and still comes out and admits, after writing the books, basically says, well, it is true. They don't cherry pick the students as much as they cherry pick the parents. And people can go back and listen to that interview because there's also a lot of assumptions he's making that are just sort of like decisions that parents make as to whether they're going to pick up their kid at 3. They got to be with the program. But of course, a lot of parents aren't. And his argument is look, rich people have the opportunity to choose to go to private schools. Why can't poor people make that choice through these charters? And it's a way to get vouchers, as opposed to the idea of you are necessarily going to limit for always who has access to a good education unless you take those resources and add more to them and make all of the schools raise the quality of all of them. And she, of course, is very much against that.
And of course, charter schools, like, despite charter schools as opposed to public schools, like they have the ability to lobby in their own favor. They have the ability to lobby a government to allow for certain things to go on. We know in certain, I believe it was in Louisiana, like post Katrina, like
almost all of them.
The entire parish counties schools were privatized. Of course, the poor counties schools were privatized, and the richer adjacent county schools were not fully privatized, but they were privatized. And not only were they privatized, not only were they made into charter schools, but they, like, the standards were forcefully lowered in order to give the impression that the schools were doing better than they actually were. And so, like, it's like public schools don't have that ability. I mean, they can, of course, advocate in their own favor at school boards and, et cetera, but they don't have the same ability to just pour money into, like, lobbying to have the metrics change to make it appear as though they're doing better. And then you have the cherry picking of parents or students who are most active, which gives off the illusion that, like, hey, public schools are failing and charter schools are doing better, but you're just, again, like, not low of averages, but like you are taking the people who would necessarily balance out the sort of the failure rates at public schools and putting them all in one place, which gives off the express picture that public schools do worse.
Right.